2025. And I commend my brother, Honorable Anthony Olwatch, Member of Parliament for Madare constituency, for bringing this timely and progressive amendment. Madam Speaker, this amendment speaks directly to the realities that are faced by many learners in the informal settlements and other marginalized settings which remain outside the formal education grid. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to bring learners currently outside the education system into a formal framework through mapping, registration, and funding of alternative provisions for basic education and training institutions. Article 27 of our Constitution guarantees equality and freedom from discrimination. We must not discriminate against learners simply because they attend schools in informal settlements or non-formal settings. Every child has a right to education, dignity, and equal opportunity. The bill, therefore, corrects an injustice by ensuring that learners in these institutions are recognized, captured within the national education system. Madam Speaker, we must also commend the resilience, entrepreneurship, and social spirit of the communities that have established and sustained these schools. In very difficult circumstances, parents, teachers, faith-based groups, community leaders have come together to ensure their children continue learning. These institutions are not a failure of the system. They are a response to the communities determined to give their children a future. That resilience and innovation should be recognized, supported, and strengthened. Having said that, urbanization, which is a topic that's being discussed right now at the Africa Urban Forum that's being held at KICC. Kenya is hosting the second Africa Urban Forum. We are realizing that the urbanization is real. Increased population is real. Demand is real. So when you look at the informal settlements, I mean, right now we are in a mad rush to ensure that we give dignity to families in terms of housing. But in the same strength, we have to recognize that in those informal settlements, we have learning facilities that are giving our children, and I tell you, quite a number have come out and gone on to university, come out and gone on to masters, come out and are actually contributing to our society. Had they not had that opportunity to study in those informal settlements, we would be in a bigger problem than we're having today. So once mapped and registered, these schools can receive support that they require. Many of these learners are coming from very vulnerable backgrounds and face multiple barriers. Some go to school hungry. And you know, right now in Nairobi, we celebrate the Dishina County program by the Nairobi County, but it focuses only on public schools. Community-based schools are our children. Faith-based schools are our children. So if they are going hungry because of the setup in which they are studying, then we obviously are discriminating against them and we are going against the Constitution. So we must ensure that feeding programs extend to these institutions because a hungry child cannot concentrate in class. Further, there are many schools that lack trained teachers. As I went around Nairobi this Easter weekend giving food to orphanages, I found quite a number of orphanages have actually created learning centers within because they cannot afford. First of all, they have so many challenges. One, most of the orphans that are in those institutions have been brought in by the police and social services, the chiefs, and they do not have birth certificates, or they have ongoing court cases. And because of that, and because the orphanages are not supported fully by government, what happens is the orphanage has the child, is not getting enough resources, has no birth certificate for the child, and cannot afford to take that child to a formal school because they can barely afford to pay the rent of the facility that they're offering. So what happens is that this child will miss an education and will have nothing to do the whole day. So the orphanage has decided, let us create some kind of structure. But they don't have teachers. They don't have the money to pay the ones that they hire. They don't have the money to buy school books. They don't have the money to make sure that the children can have uniforms to go to school if they engage them in school. So we do have a critical problem. And I believe that, every problem, once you come up with a law that addresses that problem, we then allow the government to think through providing budgets. So I know, or as it is right now, we struggle with capitation, even in the schools that we are supposed to give capitation. But, Rome was not built in a day. And I believe that the dreams that we have for our country, envisioned by our forefathers and those who fought for freedom, right, did not envision the rapid growth that we're experiencing in not just Kenya, but in Africa. And the failure from independence to address some of these issues, and now we are reaching a point where it's hitting us in the face that we have got to move fast. And for that, I'm really appreciative of the president and the role that he's playing and the tough decisions that he's making. When it comes to sanitary towels, we as GAF, we provide sanitary towels only for public schools, and also within the public schools only for certain classes. So we cannot cover everyone. We probably cover grades 6 to 9, but what about secondary? All right. What about community-based schools? What about faith-based schools? So we do have a critical crisis in the country where resources are limited, but that should not stop us putting in a law in place. Because once we put the law in place, then when we do our planning, and we're looking forward to the next census, it will tell us and inform us that we do have a crisis, and I hope that then we will start thinking family planning. Because no country can grow to an extent that its resources cannot be able to sustain it. So for me, Madam Speaker, as I look at this, the funding should support improved classrooms. Our president recently gave Nairobi 1 billion shillings, but that went only into public schools. Some of the schools that our children are learning in the informal settlements, when it rains, the children cannot hear. When it rains, the children have leaking roofs. So can we look at the infrastructure fund, recognizing that in certain areas already we have congestion? Like in Roysambo, I came across an informal school, and that informal school tells me that the classrooms nearby are 100 plus students. And then on top of it, there's an entry fee, which I'm going to be looking at as soon as the school opens. So we do have problems. So the issuance of NEMIS numbers will also be very important. Because once we give NEMIS numbers to all the students, all the learners, then we get to understand what we need to do in terms of our planning. How much money do we need to put in education? I've always been a supporter of scrapping bursaries and making sure that bursaries goes into the fund to ensure that we provide free education for all. Because I find that discriminatory as well, because some will reach you, others will not. So for me, I feel that even right now, as we have it, right, we should be thinking, what is the cost? What is the cost of providing education for every child in this country? And once we know that, we will then be able to budget and understand whether we are budgeting enough. We will then be able to say, okay, we've hired 100,000 teachers, but maybe what we need is 200,000 teachers. All these requires funding and money. But for us to have that money, right, we need to address the big elephant in the room, corruption. And I know from the former president to the current president, corruption is something that happens with citizens who've been entrusted with public office to do good for the country. And I want to tell all those that are engaging in corrupt practices, remember that this country has put you in office to serve its citizens. And as you steal resources and plan to enrich yourself, remember, this is the only country you're going to live in. And when the people get too hungry and they have nothing to eat and they lose all hope, then your wealth and whatever it is you've accumulated doing the wrong thing is not going to help you. So we need to understand that everything that we need to budget for in this country, inclusion, dignity, that no child is left behind, that they have the kind of schools that we want to be proud of, can only happen when we address corruption. I thank you, Madam Speaker. I support and I thank Honorable Anthony Watch for bringing this important bill to the House. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Mary Amase, Member for Teso South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. From the onset, I want to congratulate Honorable Watch for bringing forth this amendment